afternoon, everybody. My name is Eva Zsizsman, and I am curator of English books at the National Library of Far East Literature. Our library has an important collection of English books, contemporary literature mostly, including a Canadian section. And we often organize literary events, readings, and roundtable discussions connected to our collections. Our guest tonight is Tamas Dobozi from Ontario, Canada. So welcome at our library. It is a great pleasure to have a contemporary Canadian writer among us, reading from his short stories, the most recent writings, as Tamas has told. I met Tamas at Page, the University of Page, a few days ago, where there was a conference, here you see the booklet, organized by MESEA, which is the Society for Multi-Ethnic Studies in Europe and the Americas. So Tamas Dobozi was a presenter at this conference, and he gave also a reading. If you just have a look at the cover of the conference booklet, you see something like roots and roots. These two words spelled differently and pronounced in the same way. Roots referring to belonging, so the place where we belong to, and roots meaning journey, so the places where we go to, so our wanderings. Before Tamas starts reading from his short stories, I would just like to ask a few questions. And my first question would be about roots and roots. So, what can you tell us about the diaspora? So, Tamas Dobozi is a second-generation Hungarian-Canadian writer. So, this is why I'm asking this question. So, what does home mean to you? Where do you feel at home? Is there any such thing or concept for you as home or a home space?
Can you hear us in the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that okay? I just wonder. Home. No, there's no home.
No.
There's no home as in a location. There is a feeling of never being at home anywhere. So neither here nor there, I would say. But then there's also another sense of home apart from location, which means the people you make your home with. And I think that second concept of home operates very well for me. So home is not essential. It's not linked essentially to anything, to any one given place. But it is linked to certain people that I am surrounded by. That is my home. So I know that when I was a child, coming here often felt like home for a short time, but then it felt strange after a while. And then going back to Canada, it didn't feel entirely like home either. So home was an impossibility, right? And then after a time, you come to realize that home is not somewhere you go to. Home is something you create around yourself. So that's how I think of it now, anyway.
So home is rather about people, so community or individuals if you look close to.
Yeah, home is a social condition rather than a kind of essential one.
Actually, I forgot to present you. So,
okay.
Apart from your name, Tamas Dobozi, I would like to say that he is associate professor teaching 20th century American literature at the Department of English and Film Studies at Wilfrid Laurier University, Canada. Tamas has published 2 volumes of short stories so far. The first one in 2002 at Arsenal Pub. The title is When X Equals Mary Lou. And then there is a 2005 publication, Last Notes and Other Stories. His work has appeared in leading periodicals in North America and in the UK. including ambit, fiction, long story, and grand town. Okay, would you like to say something more about yourself?
No, I think what I will do is I will read, and then afterwards, if there are questions, then I can answer some questions. How about that? Okay, so we can sit down and do that. Okay, so usually I read for no more than 20 minutes because I find that 20 minutes is really kind of a natural limit beyond which reading becomes quite painful, I think. Certainly for me, I don't like to listen to anybody read for longer than 20 minutes. So I have some excerpts here that I'm going to read. I thought that I would read some excerpts from my stories that relate to immigrants being in Canada. I have written a number of stories lately that take place entirely in Hungary. I've become obsessed in the last 3 years with the siege of Budapest. And I've written a lot of stories about that which actually take place here during the war. And I've also written some stories that take place afterwards, where you have survivors of the siege immigrating to Canada and kind of living their lives in a way that recreates the trauma they went through when they were there. So I'm going to read a few excerpts from stories like that, and then afterwards we can talk, or you can ask questions or whatever. So I'm going to try and keep this to 20 minutes. I might go over a tiny little bit, but hopefully not too long. Okay, so this first story is from a story called Stories of Forgery, which is from a longer manuscript, and this is a little excerpt. There's not much to explain, so I'm just going to read it. A week